Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show, a Baxter Professional Services production. Welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show. I'm Tina Baxter, your host. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. We interview nurse leaders and encourage them to tell their story. Today's guest is Myra Hurt of RN Concierge Services. She is a registered nurse out of Columbus, Indiana, right here in good old Indiana, and we'd love to welcome her to the show and how one nurse with a passion for home care became a concierge nurse. Hi, and welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy Show. I'm Tina Baxter, and I'm your host. Our mission at the Nurse Shark Academy is to expand the consciousness of nurses as experts to reflect their individual and collective power by promoting self-agency through inspiring nurses to dream big, reach far, and soar to new heights in business and the profession of nursing, thereby producing a healthier and richer society. The Nurse Shark Academy Show highlights nurse business owners and others in the healthcare field who promote entrepreneurship. We interview nurse leaders and encourage them to tell their story. Join us and support these wonderful nurse entrepreneurs and leaders. Today's guest is Myra Hurt. Myra is a registered nurse and has been in the home care industry for 10 years and a nurse for 20 years. Together with her husband and her daughters, she developed a agency that helps individuals with personal services at home, and she's also started the RN Concierge business. Welcome to the show, Myra Hurt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your background. We always start with that hard-hitting question of what made you become a nurse and how did you get into nursing?
Well, so I actually I always wanted to be a nurse or a teacher. I had my daughter when I was very, very young. I was only 17. And I needed to have something that could provide for us. And I couldn't work in a factory. I had to do something that I loved. My heart has to be in whatever I do. And so I thought, well, I could go to school for a year and be an LPN and then I would be done. But as we all know in nursing, you're never done.
That's true. Yes.
So that's how I became a nurse. But I love it. I don't know what else I would do that I would love this much.
So tell me about your nursing background. Where did you get started?
So I started in home health as an LPN. I did private duty home health care where I sat with pediatric patients who had like traumatic brain injury or developmental delay and that kind of thing. I did that for about 10 years and I thought I would like to be more like a case manager because I really, really liked what my supervisor was doing. And she said, to be able to do this, you're going to have to go back to school. So I went back to school to get an associate degree as a registered nurse, and I became a registered nurse. When I did that, I went and worked at a hospital for about 2 years on a med-surg unit and found out that hospital work is not for me. So I went back to home care. I then for about 3 years worked in home care. It was an agency that did Medicaid. We only took Medicaid as a payer, but we did some skilled and then mostly home health aid kind of work. But I was a case manager. I worked my way up to becoming the director administrator there, and I just got to where I felt like it was more about the bottom line, and they were just like, just hire somebody. We don't care if they're breathing, just hire them. And I didn't want to do that. So I quit thinking I wasn't going to be in management anymore. But when I quit there, I went to another home care agency that did skilled care, and I did that for about 2 months, and they asked me if I would be the manager of clinical services. And, I agreed. And anyway, I worked my way up to being the director of operations there. Got into the same situation where I just felt like I'm just being pushed and pushed and pushed to care more about the money than the people. And that's not why I want to be a nurse. I want to be a nurse because I want to help people. And I think that you can do that while thinking about the bottom line at the same time. You don't have to put one above the other. And so when I got to that point with the home care company that I was with, um, I had been there about 6 years, and I was really kind of at odds. I didn't know what I was going to do after when I decided to quit that. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But I'm very grounded in my faith, and so I read my Bible. I did a lot of praying, and I felt like God said you need to open your own company. So I started out with the personal services, and within a couple months, I just found that there's so many gaps and so many areas where people need the nursing services as well, especially when you're talking about like care coordination, patient advocacy, that type of thing. And so then I also decided to do that through my RN concierge business.
Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yes.
So let's go back to the first part. So you started out as an LPN
Yes.
and you were working, happy in your job, but wanted more.
Yes.
So you accepted the challenge to go back to school. So where did you go to school?
I actually went to school at Ivy Tech. We have an Ivy Tech here locally in Columbus, Indiana.
Okay, so you went to Ivy Tech both times.
So I went for my LPN, I went for my associate degree, and then when I went for my bachelor's, I actually went to Indiana Wesleyan.
Okay, I woo. Now, I'm a Taylor University grad and an Anderson University grad and University of Indianapolis. So Indiana Wesleyan happens to be our big rival, but that's okay. I love their campus and it's beautiful. The one in Marion, it's a beautiful campus.
Yeah, so I actually did the bachelor's degree all online. That was I really was that's it's a really good program, and especially for people who were you're trying to work at the same time as you're trying to further your degree, and so um, I did it all online.
So what was that like balancing your life with working? I'm assuming probably working full time and then going to school at the same time because I did the same thing in graduate school. So what was it like for you balancing that, your life?
It was a balancing act. It was a lot of hard work. What I would end up doing, because at the time my kids were elementary, junior high age, and so I would work during the day doing my job as a case manager or nursing supervisor, whatever it was my position was at the time. And then I would come home and I would take care of them. And then once I was done with that, then I would go and I would get on the computer and do all of my assignments and things like that. Um, there wasn't a lot of, at the time, they didn't have a lot of, there wasn't Zoom and all of that. So everything was basically chats, and you could go in whenever and put your information in and do the things that you needed to do.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. So transitioning a little bit forward, you talked about that being in management and you got to be to the director level and decided that it wasn't for you, not because you didn't love the work, but because of the expectations that were um, put on you. So, what helped you make that transition to entrepreneurship?
Because I had been in that role twice. The first time I thought I quit that position because I thought I don't want to be in management. But then when I went to the next job, I ended up working my way up to being in management, and I loved that job. Like that's probably the last job I had at that home care company where I was director of operations, director of clinical services. I loved that job, all except for the pressure that you get from the top saying, look at these numbers, look at these numbers, look at these numbers. And so at that point, I'm like, I don't want to, I don't feel like I'm a very good employee from that perspective. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like, I don't want to worry about just the numbers. I want to be able to put the patient and the numbers and look at them both and not just, put one above the other. So that's what made me decide I needed to do something different.
And so, when did you launch your business? The
So the personal services company, we got our licensure as a personal service agency in August of 2022.
Okay, wonderful. And then, so how is your business growing currently?
Right now, we are up to 15 clients, so we're doing pretty well. Um, we have five caregivers that we use to staff those 15 clients. We're always looking for more staff. We're always accepting clients, and I think we're doing pretty well for being within our first year.
Definitely. Now, because you're a startup, and this is, I think, one of the first times we've had a startup on our show. So I wanted people to understand what it takes to start a new business. And so, what are some of the biggest challenges you had with starting your business?
So I think some of the biggest challenges is with my background and being that I was a director of operations, I felt like I had all these connections that would help me, and it would make the business take off faster than it did. So the struggle has really been that it's not taken off as fast as I thought it would. So you have to really look at your budget, and you have to budget your money and things like that. Like I said, I, I think I've been able to do that without putting that above the clients, but it is hard in the beginning to try to balance the two.
It's always a challenge when you're starting a new business, right?
Yeah.
And then, so you have to look at your marketing challenges, your branding, how to get the word out, referral sources. All of these things are all part of being a business owner. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey?
Never give up, because if you do, if you think that you're just going to go out there and tell someone who you are one time and they're going to know it, that's not going to happen. I always thought it was silly where that when they say that people have to hear things 10 times to really even know what it is or what's going on or understand it. But that really is true. I've been out there telling people who we are and what we do for going on a year, and just now we're starting to get where people know who we are and that we're here and that we're here to help.
So, what has been um, your best way of marketing your services? How do you get the word out?
So the way I started was by talking to social workers at facilities, like rehab facilities. That's really how I started. I started that way, and then I also do some marketing on Facebook as well. Some paid ads, not a whole lot, but I do have some paid ads on there. But mostly it's that, and then just providing good customer service.
And so I imagine that you ask for referrals from your existing clients and their families and maybe
Yes,
you meet.
yes.
And so are you part of any local networking groups, or how do you network with other people? Explain that process for our audience.
So there is a networking group in Columbus that meets once a month, and it's basically other home care providers. It's also not just home care providers, but there's also hospice providers in that networking group. There's also um, some DME providers and things like that. So people who are in the medical arena, and we meet once a month and we just talk about stuff and let everybody know, what we're able to do and what we're accepting and that kind of thing. So I'm in that. There's actually two that I'm in. One is in Columbus, and then there's one in Seymour, Indiana. So I'm in both of those because we cover both of those areas. And then that's really the networking groups that I'm in. I also do some networking online as well, like I said, with Facebook groups and that kind of thing.
So um, with your networking with people that you're meeting, um, tell us about your business and your ideal client.
So it's kind of twofold because our customer or our client is someone usually who is over the age of 65 who wants to age in their home. and their family. So you also are looking at talking to their family as well, because when you get to that point, usually the family's involved in trying to help navigate all of that, keeping them in the home and that kind of thing. So the ideal client is someone who is either a caregiver of someone who is over 65 who wants to age in place, or they are the person who is over 65 who wants to age in place, but they just need a little bit of help to be able to stay in their home, or maybe not even just in their home, but maybe an independent housing. Like there's a place in town that I see clients at where they it's an independent living, but they are over 65. There's also, and they have their meals, they provide the meals there and all that kind of thing, but it's not an assisted living. And then there's also another place that I go to that's a senior housing, but they have their own kitchens and that kind of thing as well.
Okay. All right. And so, um, the last question that we'll ask today, how did you, or close to the last, how did you add in the RN concierge services? How did that come about?
So, the first couple clients that I had for the personal services agency, I just felt like they were really overwhelmed and they didn't know where to go or what to do to find the help that they needed. And I had seen that a lot as a director for the home care the home health care that I was doing before, is that there's a lot of gaps and that people don't know where to go. The medical system is broken, as we know,
Yes.
and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, and there really needs to be a point person. But families don't know that, and they don't know what to do and how to go and how to get those things. So I had someone ask me if I would help them with their medication management, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I have to look into that because I don't know all the laws and all the things, around that. So I started researching and I found that I could there's a concept called concierge nursing, which is really kind of broad because you can do just about anything as a concierge nurse. But I have niched down to doing care coordination, patient advocacy, medication management, that type of thing. And so I found that I actually started that with nursepreneurs. They helped me get that going, and
Oh, that's
that
wonderful.
yeah, and that opened. I actually went live with that at the end of January this year.
Oh, that's great. That's Katie Harris's program.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
She was a guest on our show.
Yeah, yeah, and it was really good. I chose to have them do a lot of the stuff for me because I'm a nurse and I'm not a copywriter and I don't know a lot about all of that stuff. So they helped me with that, and then I'm also, because that's an ongoing thing. I'm learning how to write copy to continue that.
And that's important. And that's what I want to let our listeners to know. You learn these skills. You may have a coach or a mentor to help you with those skills, but you carry it forward and you start to develop new skills. When I started out as an entrepreneur, 15, 16 years ago, I had no idea about websites and insurance and
Yes.
all the things that you have to do. And now I've added on these other things because as you grow you pick up new skills, and so you're going to continue to invest in yourself and your knowledge and your own personal development. So I think that's very important.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, because there's a lot that goes into that I didn't realize that I didn't know. I mean, being a director of operations, there were a lot of things that I did know, but there were also a lot of things that I didn't know, especially when it comes to the marketing and the advertising and that piece of it.
Because they don't teach you those things in nursing school.
No.
They don't tell you, join the chamber of commerce and this is what it's like to network and this is how you do your elevator pitch. They don't train you to do all those things. And so you
No.
have to learn that to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, yes, that's very true.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your time. This has been a great conversation just to talk with someone who's at the very beginning stages in your process, because your business has been open for a year and then you've added your other business onto that. And I think that's wonderful. As a multi passionate entrepreneur myself, I always like to see people do more. And so kudos to you. And we're going to talk after this session, because I was just, as you're talking, I put on my coach's hat. And I was thinking, I said, there's some opportunity here for you to do some additional marketing and some places that you may want to go and talk to. So we'll talk about that offline. But I
Okay.
wanted to say thank you for being here today.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. This is actually the first podcast that I've actually been a guest on, so I appreciate you having me. I am so thankful to be here.
Well, I am honored that I am your first host in the first show. I think that's great. And I love to support nurses in their entrepreneurial endeavor. There have been some wonderful people that supported me, and I like to give back the love. And the fact that you're local here to Indiana even makes my heart warmer. So thank you. This has been the Nurse Shark Academy show with Myra Hurt, and I appreciate you listening today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our show. Share this great content with others. Invite others to discover our show. And if you will, leave a comment on Podbean or Apple Podcasts and give us a like. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day. Thank you for listening to the Nurse Shark Academy show wherever you get your podcasts or watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you'll know when all of our episodes come out. If you want further information, you can contact us on the nursesharkacademy.biz.